I'm supposed to be getting alpha this week. I don't know what day this week, but I was told this week I should have alpha access. And I'm on hopium, hardcore hopium for this because I haven't heard anything that's very, very bad yet. Yep, I did. So what does Asmon think? First impressions. Now, I was a little bit hesitant to watch this because I want to get my own, I will be getting my own first impressions from my experience with the alpha. But I don't think he's going to be showing any actual gameplay footage here. He's probably just going to be talking. So I think it's okay for me to watch it without getting, like influenced too hard and affecting my own opinions too much. So I think it's going to be fine.
What's up, boys? Today I want to talk to you a little bit about Dragonflight and give my first impressions on the expansion. I've been playing it now for the past 2 or 3 days, ever since it's been released to the public and it's out of NDA, and I've enjoyed it overall, and I wanted to talk about the things that I like, the things that I didn't really like, and just in general, where I see the expansion going.
Now, before he gets into this, and he's probably going to say it right now, but it's alpha. Alpha is not the game. Alpha is not the game. Okay, just to be extra clear on that. It is so early on. It's just, you can't make a real good, true first impression of what this expansion is going to be like based on what's in the alpha. Okay, that's just something that I'm keeping in mind right now. It's probably a good idea to keep that in mind.
This is in the alpha. It's not even a beta.
Okay, yeah, here you go.
Of course, many of these things are subject to change.
Yeah.
And some of them I hope will be changed.
Okay.
But I think that it's important to kind of give my feedback and talk about the expansion in a more succinct way than I usually do on my stream.
It's a teaser.
That's what this video's for.
It's a teaser.
First thing I want to talk about is Dragonriding. Now, Dragonriding is I feel like this is like the main thing that like everybody is talking about with the expansion.
Yeah.
And I think it's like Dragonriding and the Evoker, and I think it makes sense, right? Because these are the two of the big things that at least are available.
Go very fast.
In the alpha. I think Dragonriding is nice. I mean, if you are somebody who cares about parsing in WoW, if you are a, like high-end PvPer and you care about like how PvP gear is going to work and be rewarded.
Oh, you can't hear the sound. Okay, hold up. I'm going to go back a little bit because it was only 30 seconds in, so we're going to go back.
Videos for. Anyway, first thing I want to talk about is
okay?
Dragonriding. Now, Dragonriding is I feel like this is like the main thing that like everybody is talking about with the expansion, and I think it's like Dragonriding and the Evoker, and I think it makes sense, right? Because these are the two of the big things that at least are available to us right now in the alpha. I think Dragonriding is nice. I mean, if you are somebody who cares about parsing in WoW, if you are a, like high-end PvPer and you care about like how PvP gear is going to work and be rewarded, I don't think you care that much about Dragonriding. I don't think you probably care at all. But the fact is that there's probably a lot of casual people that are going to enjoy this. And I do the fact is that I like the fact that...
But can't you get on your dragon and be flying over the world? And you can do a PvP where your dragon fights another dragon and you have the mounted combat. Wait, no, probably not. But okay, but can't you be on your dragon and somebody on the ground can throw a spear at you and dismount you off of your dragon and make you fight on the ground? I heard there's some kind of dismounting effect that you can do if you got PvP on, and that sounds pretty sweet. I don't know if it's true.
Dragons can go up to 950% speed because that just means you can go places faster, which is more fun. I think it's cool. So I think Dragonriding is a fun little, mini game that they can
There's
add.
a toy.
I would view Dragonriding with the same level of importance as something like pet battles. I don't think this is a major, game-changing feature. I do wish that they had like actual real-time races, and I think that's really what's going to give something like Dragonriding a lot more of its longevity after people go through and they do all of the courses.
Someone said people that care about competitive PvP don't care about open world PvP. Oh crap, the heat is making my camera go off.
They go through the rings and that's it. Like, what do you really do after that? And you need to have like meta level gameplay, something like, an area in the Darkmoon Fair that you can do Dragonriding with like 10 other people, and whoever gets there first, I don't know, gets a bunch of tickets or something like that. And having real-time Dragonriding races is something I think is very important, and I hope Blizzard does this. Going for time trials.
give Asmon they're gonna give him the dragon breeding and dragon racing, because I feel like they really should. Okay, if they really want to. This face as well. Like, I'm the best at pausing on hilarious faces. But if they really want to retain Asmongold as a player, all they have to do is put dragon breeding and dragon racing in the game. That's it.
On a website, who gives a fuck? I think people need to be racing directly against each other in real time. So anyway, I think Dragonriding overall looks cool. It's nice. Is it really something? Is the game saved because of Dragonriding? I don't really think so.
No,
but it looks
okay.
cool,
No one
and
expects
that's
that.
nice. I think there's a
No
lot
one
of casual
expects
players
that.
that are happy about that.
Literally nothing that you could see in alpha. I don't think that there's anything that they could put in alpha. Like, I don't think alpha could be, no matter, even if it was perfect, it would not be the basis to make a statement like game saved. Because, again, it is alpha and much can change.
And I'm happy for them. I think it'll be enjoyable. And the odds are it probably won't be like something that's shitty. And it seems like Blizzard, we're talking a
Not
little bit
shitty.
about mounts, right?
Okay.
So there was a mount achievement for 500 mounts added into the game. And the mount reward was a Yeti that is about 2 shades of brown different from the minion of Grumpus that was added back in Warlords of Draenor.
Yeah, okay.
So guess what? A lot of people are not happy about this. And Blizzard responded in less than 24 hours and they said that, listen, yeah, it's pretty shitty.
I did hear about that.
We're going to change it. And I think
I did hear about that. I did hear that there was an uproar about a mount. Let's see if I can find actually. So you can see what it was. Right here, yeah. 500 mounts achievement reward to be changed in future alpha build. It was going to be this. We agree. The Yeti will be changed to a different mount. Not a Yeti in a future alpha build. Not necessarily the next one. Feedback. So they actually listened and changed something. Which is good. I mean, that's... it's cause for a bit of hopium there that they heard feedback and then they actually did what players wanted them to do. Okay, so I mean, that's good. Will it continue? We can hope so, but it's a small little puff of hopium there. Okay.
that's great. It was actually so fast that a lot of people, even me, right? I was like, did they put this in the game so they could just know? They knew they were going to change it, but they put it in the game to make people think that, you know, they're actually listening to feedback.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? Are you are you very fucking serious? Dude, like, you've been hurt so many times. You've been hurt so many times that you can't even take this small thing without distrust. Like, the level of distrust is through the roof that you would be like, they actually could have put it in there on purpose, knowing people wouldn't like it. And then it's like a 5D chess move. It's like a 300 IQ move. We know that we're going to change it after they say that they don't like it, because we know that they aren't going to like it. And then they're going to like us because they know that we actually listened, but we didn't really listen because it was all a plan. Like, it's so stupid. That's so stupid.
Change it, right? Basically, like, put it in there so they can get like an easy dub for like listening to the community. I don't know, but I think that it's a good thing either way, and so I hope to see what they replace it with. And in general, I have been very happy with the amount of responsiveness and the amount of feedback that Blizzard has taken into account with the expansion. And I think the expansion itself is the product of a lot of that feedback.
Could see them doing this.
I think the truth is that, you know, I compare this with like Path of Exile, and I think
let me just say they deserve the distrust, and maybe they did. Okay, I don't know.
The big concerns people have with Path of Exile was that whenever you were playing a season of the game, in order to get kind of up to speed, you had to do all of these activities, and it was becoming exhausting for people. So especially for like a more casual player. I think that WoW has had the same problem. I think with WoW, like what's happened a lot is that you've reached max level and then you've had to progress through a number of these like end-to-game progression systems, whether these are artifact weapons, Azerite gear, or Covenants, Renown, or Shadowlands legendaries. You have to progress through these at some form of a time-gated way.
Right.
And I think people just get bored of that and tired of it. I think
that
Dragonflight, the reason why it doesn't have like one of these like really big like expansion changing features is because I think Blizzard has realized that a lot of times these things are, you know, they get iterated on inside of the expansion, and by the time that the expansion's over, they pretty much stop happening, and they get removed, and all of that effort and time and work is just pretty much wasted. And I go back to
from the way that I heard Ian talk about Dragonriding, it sounded like he was describing Dragonriding as the experimental feature of the expansion that they could, if it's popular enough, potentially carry that tech onward into future expansions. And that's the way that he had in the past talked about other experimental features. And because he had said, I think this was in the WoW Krendor interview, he said something like, well, anytime that we add an experimental feature, it's usually with the hope that, you know, maybe this could be very popular and could be something that we carry forward. But since a lot of these giant convoluted systems have been pretty unpopular in general, with the exception of maybe Legion legendaries, they decided to just focus instead on something that could maybe more realistically be carried on to future expansions, a system like Dragonriding, which apparently you are able to level up, you are able to improve your mastery of, which I think is cool, and it's not something that affects your power level in game. Like, it could still be rewarding and fun to level up, but so far have not heard anything about the big convoluted annoying system of the expansion. And I don't think that I think it's still too early to say that they haven't thought of it yet, and they're still waiting to add it. Like, I'm still waiting to hear about what it's gonna be, but so far doesn't seem to be there, at least not yet.
Like, I think to myself, because really one of the main concerns with Dragonflight, and I think this is valid but I don't necessarily agree with it, is that there is no real like big feature of the expansion outside of, you know, the dragon class and also the dragon class and Dragonriding. Those are two of the main things that Blizzard's been talking about.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, where's the Torghast? Where's the you know, Shadowlands legendaries? Where's the artifact weapon? Where is the garrisons? Where is the Azerite gear? And I honestly think that it's a good thing that this is not in the game again. Because I think back and I'm like, when did they really start adding in
most people would agree
this
with that
kind of like expansion defining feature that the expansion is almost built around, like a build around feature?
Yeah.
I think that it was very clearly in Warlords of Draenor with the garrison.
Yeah.
I think the garrison was added in. This is like the main flagship feature of WoW right now, and so everything in the game is built in the context of the garrison. And I saw that with like getting gear, being able to level up followers to get gear.
One thing is about the gear, like, we don't really know a lot right now about what itemization is going to look like. How will itemization be? I think it's really important that they get it right, and they make it feel fair. They make it feel, I don't know, maybe more like the Wrath model, more like maybe the 14 model of just having tokens, though they'll probably be adding some other layer of RNG into it, but hopefully not too much. This is one of the big question marks for me so far, and how itemization will work.
Being able to do the quest lines, doing the legendary stuff, and then going into Legion, obviously we had the artifact weapon and class order halls, etc., which were very problematic, and we also had legendaries as well, which were also very problematic. So Blizzard's had a very bad history of adding in one of these expansion defining features, a build around feature, and then effectively having to build the game around the inadequacies of that feature. I think that's what's happened. And if you go back to Cataclysm, if you go back to Mists of Pandaria or Wrath of the Lich King, and you think about like what did they really add into the game that was like massively like a big change, I think that many of the cases that yes, all of these expansions did have changes, like whether it's RBGs, hard modes in Wrath, or the Legendary Cloak and Mists of Pandaria, you're right, these things did have changes, but there were no massive features that the game was sold as like this is the main defining feature of the expansion, and I think that's a good thing. I feel like in general it's better for Blizzard to pull back and try to improve the fundamentals of their game. And the reason why I think the game effectively has been...
One thing that I wanted to say is that maybe with the lack of an overly convoluted system that is tedious and often frustrating for players to work through, that they need third-party tools, third-party websites to work with and figure out, well, things like what's the best conduit for me, like what's the best, like, there's a million different decisions that I need to make within the system about how I'm going to get the most damage. It's like a lot of that can just feel very tiresome, and it has been. Well, I know Azerite gear was just an absolute nightmare in that regard. But maybe without that in the game, they will have the ability to make more content. Maybe they'll have less time to worry about balancing all of those tiny little levers and knobs, and they'll have more time to create just straight up content. Like I had been asking for them to maybe consider putting big, like one single boss battles back into the game, like the Onyxia type battles. That is just fun to get into and not having to be this whole giant thing. Just more and more battle content, more fights, more actual content that people can do. That's all I'm saying.
You add in all of these different verticals of balancing, right? You have like Covenant, Conduits, Legion Legendaries, tier sets, trinkets, soul binds, and like you have to balance all of these things across each other and have them work in some degree of uniformity in PvP, Mythic, and Mythic Plus, and raiding, and that's like not even counting like other niche activities. Like there's no fucking way this is going to happen. So I actually think that Blizzard's making the right decision by not just adding in one of these like massive features into the expansion.
I definitely agree.
And I also want to talk about
I don't know if there's anybody that would disagree with that. Like I think most people are pretty much on board with it, saying like I'm relieved that so far it's alpha. So far we don't see anything like that to be concerned about, because I mean, rest assured, with every single case where the players noticed that there was going to be a big problem with a system that they were considering adding to the game, that all was apparent very early on. There was a lot of feedback given about all of these situations very early on in the beta, and they just didn't listen over and over and over again. So if there is something, we will find out probably in the beta.
The flaws that a lot of these other features in the expansions have had. Garrisons, going into garrisons, there were a lot of concerns with garrisons that they would flood the economy with resources, which is what happened.
Yeah.
There were a lot of concerns, especially for myself. I remember I was very concerned that it would just like kind of segment and segregate players into their own garrison, sequester them into their own garrison, and they just sit there all day because you were able to get trade chat in the garrison. I remember whenever trade chat was added into the garrison, I complained about it on the forums, and I was of course downvoted, and I got a bunch of hate for this, but I feel like I was right, is that not having trade chat in the garrison probably would have made it to where people spent more time in the city around other people, which is a positive thing in an MMO, I think, in general. And so the garrison was shipped, like as soon as the announcement of the garrison and as soon as the alpha came out, everybody could see a lot of big problems with the garrison. And Blizzard largely ignored these, and they just pushed it out, and they said, oh, you'll see, it'll be better whenever you play it. It wasn't.
Yeah.
And I think that afterwards, people were very frustrated about that for good reason. And then the same thing happened with the Legion Legendaries. They initially said, if you go back to the announcement of Legion, they said that these Legendaries would be targetable, and at the beginning of the expansion and for the first half of the expansion, actually probably the first 75% of the expansion, they were not targetable. And that was a obvious problem that everybody saw was bad, and I think people disliked it heavily. I think people felt the same way about Titan Forging, and they also felt the same way, to a certain degree, about farming artifact power. All of these were concerns that were brought up during the alpha, beta, and actually during the current game at the time, and they were mostly and largely ignored. And go into BFA, obviously we have Warfronts being an issue, Azerite gear.
So Nico said, just looks like Dragonriding is going to be a big feature. Yeah, it does look like that is the expansion feature. Like that's the big expansion feature, which seems good to me because that doesn't affect player power. Given how early they've given it out, I'm just hoping Dragonriding isn't a pain to skill up and that the game isn't built around how to train your dragon. It might be, but I think even if that is the case, it will still be better than every other like expansion big feature system that they've had since Worlds of Draenor, he was just mentioning, Garrisons, because it's not going to be affecting your player power. And it's just something to keep you occupied.
Ian literally said that they ignored criticism and feedback because they thought the players hadn't seen enough of it to make an accurate decision on if it would be good or not. So he even acknowledges that the feedback there was ignored. And with Shadowlands, of course, we have Covenants.
Yeah,
and
that's what I was just talking about.
Evident.
That is just what I was talking about a minute ago when I said every time we've had a beta, there's been a shitload of players who immediately notice that there's a huge problem. This system is going to cause massive problems. The system is going to be incredibly frustrating to interface with in any way, have left tons and tons and tons of feedback over the course of many months about ways that the system could be fixed, resolved, improved, and generally it has been ignored. So this time, it doesn't appear that there is something like that, but
on literally the announcement of the expansion. And so they were a problem for the majority of the expansion. So I think that Blizzard has had a very bad track record with responding to criticism and feedback from these systems and having a, as I said, build around feature that ends up being handicapped for being able to play the game. It's like this feature does more.
I think Dragonriding will not be something that will negatively impact your ability to play the game. That is why it seems, that's why I'm on Hopium. So far I'm on Hopium. Someone, Moralian said, I like Dragonriding because it looks like it's going to be a completely casual and optional system. Yeah. You'll need the basics to get around the new zones, but you don't need to invest too much time into it if you don't want to, since it won't affect performance in raids, Mythic Plus, etc. That's it. That's the name of the game. It's like with Covenants. People were upset about it because of the attachment to player power. But if it had all just been, you know, pick the Covenant you think is cool and, you know, you can rank it up maybe sort of like reputation and get all of the mounts and minions that you want, and it won't affect your player power in a meaningful way, then that would have been all good. But
to prevent you from enjoying the game than it does to enable you to play the game and enjoy the game.
We are not in the beta yet, indeed. And that is something I will continue to remind people. It's still alpha. It is too early to say if the game is good or bad or horrible or great. We don't know. It's alpha. It is a teaser. It is not the game.
So I'm really actually glad they're not doing that. I think that they should focus on smaller systems, smaller things, and just in general build the world
more
of Warcraft
content.
rather
Build more
than just
content.
build a feature for
Literally
a single
just
expansion.
make more content.
I go back and I think to myself, if they had spent half the amount of time designing, you know, like a raid or designing a bunch of like really high-end, super complex dungeons, they had spent half of that time in the past 5 years developing content that's like the Mage Tower, or content like Dragonriding, or content like the Darkmoon Faire, and we had all of that content that was usable and playable at this current point in time in the game. Would the game be better than it is now?
Actually, that's something that we were talking about in the context of Final Fantasy XIV today. And one of the reasons, at least for me, I'm able to play Final Fantasy XIV a lot and always find something to do is because we get a shitload of content in every expansion that you can go back and still have a lot of fun doing. Like right now I spend pretty much all of my free time in Palace of the Dead doing content that was released in Heavensward. But I'm having the time, like, it's popular content. It's still popular. And I'm having a great time doing it. And I'm soloing it. I'm trying to get Necromancer. Or there's Eureka. You know, there's like a lot of, instead of them wasting their time on these convoluted systems, they instead add stuff that you can keep yourself busy with, not just now, but in future expansions too. Like we've had Baja, Eureka, and hopefully soon Criterion Dungeons and Eidolon Sanctuary.
And I think that for most people, that the answer to that would be yes. I think absolutely it is. So focusing on creating a better world experience and trying to move away from actually just trying to build the entire game around the competitive aspects of it. You saw the AoE cap in, I think there was in Shadowlands it was added.
Yeah.
The AoE cap in Shadowlands. And that was, I've never seen a single other example of like any argument that it was good outside of the MDI. Nobody wanted this, but they added it, and I think it was because of the MDI. All of these like complex and like overly complicated personal loot trading rules. Why is this in the game? Who's asking for this?
Are they
Who
changing
wants
them?
this? Nobody. But I think Blizzard has tried to.
Are they going to add back the master loot? That's the question.
You know, they've tried to basically
I should Google that.
Keep these high-end guilds on rails, you know, prevent them from progressing too fast, prevent them from getting too much gear or something like this. And it actually filled me with a lot of hope. It sounds weird to say this, but it filled me with a lot of hope that Ian said that they gave up on doing.
Did I just hear what I thought I fucking heard? You cannot kill hope. That's what Sourfang said.
In the most recent interview, I think that he had with Towley. It might have been either Towley or Mr. GM, but either one, he said like, yeah, we're not going to try to fight them anymore.
Hold up. Okay, maybe this will tell me. Will it bring back a master loot? Hasgos is stating, what if I told you I kind of want to bring back master loot? Okay, well, they probably should do that. All right, let's go.
We just want to make the content and that's it. And I think that's a good decision. The fact is that trying to continuously do that and, you know, like micromanage the way these people play the game has a ripple effect on the entire player base. And you saw that with the Sepulchre. Of course, the difficulty of the raid in itself was really bad. And that arms race, as Ian called it, was harmful to the entire player base. And that's really what happens, is that the ripple effect of trying to fight these high-end players and high-end guilds turns into a decreased quality of experience for an average player. Things like the Crucible to make tier gear. Why was this delayed by such a large margin? It was clearly to prevent high-end guilds from being able to get tier sets in some sort of a way. I don't understand why. I honestly still don't understand that. And I hope that Blizzard, you know, going into...
I really hope that I think this is another thing that they need to work on in Dragonflight, is they need to take a lesson from Yoshi. And if there's a decision that they're going to make, if there's a change they're going to make, if there is anything that's going to be different or anything that's going to be delayed or anything like that that players are upset about or wondering about, you should not have a situation where someone who plays your game a lot, makes content for your game, is sitting there like, I don't know why they did that. I have no understanding of their reasoning behind doing this thing that they did. I think this is a massive failure as a game dev, to not communicate things well to your player base, because you might think that you're doing what's best for the game, but if you don't communicate that to your player, and if you don't explain to them why certain things are not possible or why certain things need to be the way they are, then they will get more and more frustrated. They will get more and more upset, and it's just going to get worse and worse.
Dragonflight listens to that kind of feedback, and they stop trying to you know, like min-max the way that people play the game and artificially extend game time by withholding quality of life features. I think this is a very harmful thing to the game. It creates resentment for the game, which is what I've talked about before, and that's actually worse than not having fun, because it's like not having fun is at least apathy. Who gives a fuck, right? But resentment, this is like a targeted emotional feel, and that's bad.
A really good point,
so
actually.
I really hope that doesn't happen at all, and I
never considered that before, but that is a really good point.
Hope that Blizzard's able to continuously, you know, develop the expansion and just...
And again, I do think that that feeling of resentment, again, like my pause game is the best. The feeling of resentment will come about by feeling like there is an atmosphere of hostility between you, the player, and the devs. It, like this feeling of antagonism, like we're not working together towards the same goal. We don't want the same thing. They want something, I want something, and I don't understand why they want the thing they do. Therefore, we are at odds. There is hostility, and with that comes the resentment. There must be clear communication. That's the only way forward. If they actually want to improve the game, there has to be
make it better on a fundamental level. I've said multiple times that I think that it'll take 2 or 3 expansions for the game to be good again. I do think that Dragonflight could be the first step in that direction. Now, the expansion hasn't really been out yet.
I think it's too early to say.
We don't really know like what a lot of the features are. We don't know how they're going to balance talent trees. I have no idea.
Itemization is a question mark.
But I think that the philosophy behind Dragonflight is positive, and I think that building a better foundation for the game is much more important than putting a new coat of paint on an old car again.
I agree. Yeah.
I think this has been happening for the last expansions, and it's really just been a losing battle, and it's been bad every single time. I hope that it's good. I really do, and you know, of course, I'll make videos and talk about all the different stuff and the systems, etc. I mean, they even said they're bringing back group loot, for example, and so like that probably, I'm assuming, means they're going to bring back master loot. And in my opinion, I think there were 2 reasons that they got rid of master loot. Number 1 is because they probably wanted to save money on GMs, and you can't have any ninja looting tickets if you have personal loot, right? Nobody can ninja. So I think that's one big reason. And then the other reason probably
save money
was
on
because they were trying to micromanage and min-max how, again, high-end guilds were playing the game. This is just an effort in futility. They will always know life it harder than you expect them to. Don't try to stop it. Make the game for the other fucking 99.999% of players, and I can guarantee you those high-end players will have a better time because they'll have more people playing the game to look up to them for achieving what they're trying to do. So I do think that it's a very big mistake to have done that for so long, and I'm glad that Blizzard's finally acknowledging that and trying to move away from it, but we'll see what happens. I think that it's very important to not let your guard down and to be very outspoken about changes and things that are done in the game that are just decreasing the quality of it or making it take longer for no reason or just in general making you not enjoy the game. So I feel like with this alpha, I think players should be even more outspoken, and also I think that we should do what we did last year. If the game isn't fun, stop playing the game. Stop playing the game. Stop doing something that you're not happy with. And I honestly think that the mass exodus from WoW last year...
I'm really glad to hear Asmons say that. Really. Because I remember a time, I think it was during BFA, I was watching his streams, and he was definitely... didn't seem to be having fun. He definitely didn't seem to be having a good time. He was just like playing because it's the thing to do. It's the thing that's comfortable. It's the thing that he did. And there was a period of time when I remember it was like very, very negative. And everybody was feeling really negative at the time. Like I remember watching Preach videos and Bellyler videos. And at the time there was just like so much anger and just not feeling heard. I remember watching videos from some WoW creators who were they would just turn on their camera and just scream. They would just yell about it. Just feeling like their feedback wasn't, they weren't being listened to. And it was rough. It was really at a fever pitch then in BFA. And then Shadowlands came out, and I feel like people were tired. I feel like in Shadowlands, there was a lot of people who were just like, you know what, I'm done. Like, they just left, or they just felt like all their anger was spent by that point. And they're too tired to scream anymore. And they just gone. Like, more and more people just went away. And were like, I'm not going to deal with this anymore, because they're still not listening. They're still not listening. And so there is going to be, like, the road for Blizzard to win back the trust of their players will be a long one. That will take a lot of listening to them. But so far, I mean, it does seem like they are doing more of that. again, it's still alpha, so the jury is really out, but we'll see. That's all I can say.
You know, like the Final Fantasy and also with like the lawsuit, I think both of those two things lit a fire under their ass. I'm gonna be totally honest. I think it absolutely fucking did, because there's probably people, executives over there at you know, at Activision Blizzard. They see this and they're like, fuck, what are you guys doing over there? Like, you know, why are the people leaving? Why aren't they quitting? Why aren't you listening to your player base? And I guarantee you, whenever the board of executives at Activision Blizzard sees that, they don't really give a fuck about like what the philosophy is behind stopping Limit from doing split runs. They don't give a fuck. And so that's a good thing, and I think that everybody who did unsub and did move away from the game actually was extremely instrumental in making Dragonflight in many ways a response to the community feedback, and I hope that continues to be the case. It does feel like that. And if it stops being the case, well, you already know what to do. So
play Final Fantasy XIV, or at least the free trial, which includes the critically acclaimed expansion Heavensward with no limits on playtime, and you can go all the way up to level 60. Yeah, that's probably what people can do.
So I really hope it's good. I'm excited, and I think it's going in the right direction, but it is the alpha. It's very hard to say. And I think we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, the Evoker looks fine.
Wait
I mean,
and
the
see.
customizations.
Wait and see.
I mean, there's got to be like some furries or scalies on the fucking art team. Like, they put a lot of effort and focus and detail into these characters. And there's no way that there's only one place that I've seen that level of detail before.
Wait a minute. What do you mean, Asmons? Where have you seen that level of detail before?
And it's DeviantArt. So anyway,
oh boy. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Okay, dude.
I'm glad to see it. I'm excited to see more, and I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. Anyway, guys, I wanted to make a video and talk about it. Let me know what you think.
Okay. Well, I mean, based as usual. I don't know about the last part. It was a bit weird, but yeah, it's good video. There you go. There is like glad to see it. I'm still waiting for whatever it is. I'm still waiting to find out what it is gonna be. What's the thing? Like, what's gonna be the controversy for this expansion? Because so far they didn't announce any big bad. They didn't announce any bullshit systems that's gonna frustrate people and, you know, be annoying. I squint my eyes at whatever the itemization is gonna be. I'm like very suspicious of how the itemization is going to work. This is a big question mark for me. And I mentioned earlier on in the stream today, discussing this with a friend of mine. I asked, you know, there's got to be something. What's the catch? What is the catch? What is it? And he said that, well, maybe they're bringing back attunements for raids, but the attunement is purchasing an NFT. Like, I feel like there's gonna be some shit like that. I don't know what. They kept it hidden. Maybe they're like at the very last second, they're gonna unveil some bullshit like that.